Welcome to the Caerusnet podcast. I'm Steve Ziskowski, Caerusnet's founder and also passionate facilitator. Today I have with me a passionate business owner and a passionate networker. I've got Randy Fisher from A&M Engineering. He is a 10-year plus Caerusnet member, so he comes to this podcast with a lot of wisdom. Randy has been on the same Brighton Wednesday 8 o'clock group, like I said, for the past decade now. He always brings his A game. I appreciate Randy's consistency, even though we were talking before this interview just about how absolutely amazingly busy and grateful he is for that right now. He always still finds a way to answer his phone. He always still lives up to his obligations, and it's got to be at least a 95% or better attendance person at the Caerusnet meeting. So, Randy, welcome to the Caerusnet podcast. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to be here.
Well, let's jump right into first things first, right? So let's frame for the audience, who is Randy Fisher? What is A&M Engineering?
Well, Randy Fisher is just a guy, married to my wife Susan, with 2 kids, both going to Michigan State right now. A&M Engineering is an electrical and heating, cooling, contracting business. We do full service, everything commercial, residential, industrial work. Really no jobs too small. Some jobs are too big, though. I will say that. I mean, there's only so much you can do, but that's what we do.
And Randy, when did you start A&M Engineering? What year were you officially in business?
So it would have been 2005. 2005 is when the stuff hit the fan for me. I was in the union. I was a pipe fitter, local 636. Hated my job, hated getting up for work, all that stuff, and talked to the wife and said, I can't take this anymore. I want to start my own business. And she said, well, we don't have any money and you don't have any clients. And I said, I know it's going to take some work, but I want to do it. And she said, well, okay, let's do it. So, my kids were like 1 in 3 when I quit a nice paying union, comfortable job. All I had to do was just get up every morning and I would have made my pension. But that's not how I wanted to live. So we started my own company, A&M, and that stands for Anna and Madeline, which are my 2 daughters. So we started that in 2005 and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story, and I can't wait to say happy 20-year anniversary here in a few years. That's really exciting. Randy, what's your service area? If somebody watching or listening to this podcast is interested in reaching out to you, what's your service coverage area?
So we've got actually a pretty large service coverage area, and most service companies do. So I'm based out of Livingston County, so we do Livingston County, obviously. We do like it would be northern Washtenaw. We do Saline, Ann Arbor, of course, Chelsea, so that area. And then we go all the way down to western Wayne County, as in Northville, Plymouth, Livonia, stuff like that. We swing around Novi. Do dip into Southfield, actually, and Berkeley areas. And then for the northern areas, we do all the Bloomfields, and Wixom and all that. So it's a pretty large circle, really. Most of Oakland, western Wayne, all of Livingston, and part of Washtenaw. So it's a very big circle.
Yeah, it really is. And you hustle and you're up early and you're a hard worker. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you put into your business. Success in what you do doesn't happen by accident. It happens, through deliberate effort over and over again. And it's always noticeable. Anytime I've referred you and I've used your services myself numerous times. I mean, you're my number one guy, and I love referring you to because everybody comes back to me and they're very pleased with your creativity, with your responsiveness, and how you interact. So let's ask a question then, because you have a lot of choices in terms of like how you were going to build your business when you were making that big leap of faith to go open your business. I think you and I initially met not too long after you opened your business, because you and I might have also been at the same time in Shmi and I back in the day. So you had a little bit of Shmi and I experience just like I did. And I'm really grateful that you're a Caerusnet member. So let's talk about what was it that made you feel that you wanted to build A&M Engineering through positive word of mouth recognition? Why did you choose that path?
Well, and without having any business background whatsoever, on top of starting a business, do realize that you got to get your name out there somehow. You got to let people know what you do, and how do you do that? And I didn't really know. There was I think it was my CPA at the time got me into the Shmi and I. So that was the start of it. And while Caerusnet is way better than BNI, it still served its purpose pretty well.
Sure.
I still have connections with people from BNI from all that time ago. It doesn't matter where you are. So that made perfect sense to me right off the bat. It didn't take long to get disillusioned with BNI because of all the stuff. It's all true what you say. And then somehow seems like I met you somewhere in there. And then went with you, and then obviously I think I've been with you 13 years, I think, in Caerusnet, actually.
Has it been longer than I think?
I think it's been longer than you think. I don't have my sheet with me, but
you know what? I wonder if maybe we were doing something with either Net Shui or I think, okay, so maybe it was kind of predating Caerusnet a little bit.
So it could have been, because I did do a little bit of Net Shui also with you. Yes, I remember that. So, but that is a way for a small, this format is a way for a small business at an extremely reasonable price to get in touch with other people who can spread your name, because I have tried and wasted so much money with different forms of advertising, which unless you got $1 million budget, I don't think it works. I've actually spent so much money on different types of advertising to zero effects on almost everything I've tried, except for networking.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I often, one of the things that I've noticed, which I think is really cool, is that even the companies that are in that space of trying to help people find a lot of the additional ways to generate leads and generate new clients, many of them also have recognized what you've recognized, that the way that they like to find clients is also through referrals and networking as well too. And that's where they get their best business. What people are trying to create on the internet is, it's like they're trying to replicate the referral process, but without being able to have that relationship that really brings things together. And it's that relationship, that's the difference between referrals and being one of 20 other companies that are marketing for somebody's stuff. And there's so much content and so much marketing these days that you're more likely to be tuned out by people than tuned into, in my opinion. So let's jump into another piece of this interview that I've been looking forward to. So knowing what you know now, and being a successful business owner, a profitable business owner, you've got employees as well too for your business. Maybe you can kind of paint the picture for AM Engineering, your staff.
So myself, obviously, and I'm still out in the field. I don't want to be in the office. I like being out. So I'm a master electrician and nearly 40 years of heating and cooling work. So I do both. I've got Randall DeRoven, who is my electrician, and he's becoming a really good HVAC helper. He's been an electrician forever. His dad was an electrician. We grew up together, so I've known him my whole life. And he works with me full time, and so he does, that part. I've got Alex Kroll, who's been with me for 7 years now. Great young man. I can't tell you how happy I am with him. I get calls on him all the time, but the good ones,
Yeah.
saying, what a respectful young man he is. He shows up on time. He wears a belt, shirt tucked in. This is unheard of these days for a young person to do. And I tell people all the time, that's 90% of your job is to show up on time and look, respectful. People don't want slobs coming into their house. So Alex is a graduate of Northwestern Tech. And like I said, been with me for 7 years. So he's a great HVAC installer and technician. I send him wherever I need to send him to fix anything that needs to be fixed. He can do almost as much as I can do. Nobody can do what I can do, though, unfortunately. I need 4 people to replace me, I think. But Alex is great in that respect, and also he's he's also dual also, because being an electrical company also, I'm not going to send him home when we're just doing electrical work. So he helps us with the electrical, and he knows a lot of stuff in that respect too. So I can send him on relatively easy residential electrical jobs, but more than that, he's just a great handy helper in the electrical part too. So all 3 of us kind of gel together that we can all go on a job and just get it all done just very efficiently.
Yeah, and I've had Alex, work for me as well too on different things, and I agree with all the things that are being said about him. You've got a real keeper over there. So, hey, as we near the end of this podcast, I want to pick your brain on 2 things. First thing would be, what's the best advice that you might have for a new Caerusnet member getting started on a team? What advice would be the best piece of advice you would have for them as they begin their first year journey to giving the whole wide world of referrals a try?
Okay, well, things have changed a little bit, obviously, now that we're on Zoom. So, when for the first years, you're there at the meetings, you're personal, you're sitting down before the meetings, talking to all these people. You see somebody is new to the group, you go over, you shake their hand, you talk to them, you stay after the meetings. I mean, those were never 1-hour meetings. You're there 10 or 15 minutes early, you're there a half hour late, but that was okay. So you got that the personal meetings right up front. And so now obviously it's a little different. We're on Zoom. So I would say it might be a little more difficult to get started, because you're going to have 15 people that you only see on the Zoom. So you do need to make the trust builders and get with these people and talk with them. I haven't done as many as I should, but I've done enough where I know most of the people in it, and I know I got to get better at that myself. But getting to sit down and have a cup of coffee with people is really the main thing. And then once you do that, even in the old format in person, you can't expect just your revenues to quadruple in the first week you're there. I've never actually had anybody that I've disliked or not gotten along with, but there could be personality differences and stuff. But luckily I've never had that, and I've never actually seen it, but I know it's happened. But getting to know people face to face, that stuff can stop. And that's the main thing. I mean, you'll go a while, you might not give any refers, you might not get any, especially if you're new, but you stick with it and you talk to people. the stuff does start to roll in. It really does.
Yeah, I think that your advice there is really fantastic. We are in a different world, and it's you've got to be more mindful now, more efficient, and more process oriented. And those trust builders, like you talked about, I know that on our team, you've done trust builders with Tom Oriet and other folks on the team that started their Caerusnet experience in the new world, right? So we've got this whole new class of people that are coming in that this is all they've ever known. And our goal is to try to make this a great environment and a great arena for them. And I think that when you have that opportunity to minimally have a trust builder with somebody, even if you're doing it on Zoom, and like you and I, we talked for half hour before we started this interview, and it was just great to catch up with you, right? I mean, it's just great to have that free flow exchange just to see where things go. So if you can do trust builders with people, ideally it would be the perfect thing to grab that cup of coffee together or to meet at somebody's location, because then the next time you see them on Zoom, you're like, I've met Randy. I know exactly what he looks like. I shook his hand. And now the next time I see him on Zoom, there's more of a bond there. And I think that that's really important. So great advice. Other piece of advice that I'll ask you for, last question, and this is for, now that you've been in Caerusnet for over a decade and have previous networking experience in other formats, what advice would you have for a Caerusnet member that, say, has gone past now their first year, maybe they're in year 2 or 3 or 4, 5? What advice might you have for them to, not get stale, to shake off any rust that they might have? I'm sure that in your journey, there are times when you have moments of strength and you're excited. And then there's other times that we do things, because it's part of what we know we need to do, but maybe the zest isn't there as much. How do you perform at such a high level? And how would you recommend members that might be experiencing a little bit of rust shake it off?
Well, yeah, that's kind of a hard question. So you can't get discouraged, number one, because the negative thinking, if you're, nothing's happening, it's been 2 months and nothing, I'm just going to quit. Well, where's that going to get you? That's going to get you nowhere. So the negative thinking on that would be very bad. Yeah, like we talked about before we even came on, the positive thinking and everything is really good. So if you're feeling down or you don't think it's working for you, possibly maybe it's not. Maybe you haven't reached out to people, because I find that some people definitely reach out to me, but for the most part, I got to reach out to other people, and then you got to get those personal relationships going. That's what it is, and I can't emphasize, especially because we're on Zoom, you don't get that time to talk to people, on a weekly basis. So you have to talk to them. One part that I'm lucky at is, I do trust builders on a service call. Okay, so I can check them off like that. Someone calls me, Kim Langa called me. She had a kitchen light that didn't work. I went there, talked to her. There was my trust builder. So neither one of us had to take time off work. So, if you're languishing, you don't think it's working, once again, reach out to people and talk to them, and get us, everybody knows somebody who does something, so we all intertwine, and always keeping your ears open, because this is one of the things in the toolboxes, to get referrals, you got, giving referrals is a way to do it. You can't just expect, people to give you things. It's a two-way street. We all got to keep our ears open when we're talking to customers or family or whoever about somebody who needs something. And, no matter what it is, even if they're not in our group, I call you and I'm saying, Steve, I could just go and ask, I could go do the search and everything, but, I like to, get in touch and say, Steve, I need a computer guy, whatever, and pass a referral to a different group. that also helps too. So, I've been here a long time. I get referrals from group members that are in different groups. I don't even know them. And the longer you stay and you talk to everybody, it all comes around.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And the other thing that I think I might just even add to that is that I think that the personal interactions today, they mean more now than maybe they ever did before. I think that people, we don't want to take for granted what we had before. And the world has changed. So now we're looking at a new world, and how do we navigate that world? And I really do believe just that initial pour, that initial being able to meet with somebody in person, or at least at a minimum one-on-one on Zoom, where you do have a really good 1 hour conversation. I've been able to pass referrals to people I've never met in person. People have passed me referrals that have never met me in person, but because the interaction that we had during our trust builder was so good and authentic, the feelings were virtually the same about me and that I had about the other person as if I met them in person. We either trust people or we don't. We either have a sense of synergy or we don't. But I think the other thing too is that where the rubber meets the road for me is when I'm really clear on what I'm going to do for somebody at the end of that trust builder. Like, I want to have a little mission on their behalf that I'm going to go and introduce them to somebody else. If I've got a referral that I'm thinking about, I'm going to try to see if I can make that referral happen, because then they realize that the time that we're spending together actually is results oriented as well too. It's not just a karma thing that will it ever produce something. If you do a trust builder right, you're helping somebody out pretty quickly. And I think that's huge. Randy Fisher, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Yeah, you're one of my favorite Caerusnetters of all time. And I think I may have passed more referrals to you than just about anybody over that period of time, just because of what a gem you are and how you take care of people. So thank you for all you do. Here's for another 10 years. You never know how we might be doing this in the future. We might be having virtual headsets on, and you might magically be in front of me, and it might even feel more real, which I think is great. So you never know how this thing's going to go. And then finally, I can't wait to see you at the member breakfast here in a couple weeks.
Well, great. Thank you so much for having me, Steve. It was a joy to be here.